And if you educate other people on what's going on, then you can arm them with information, and then they can base their decision off of that information at hand.
Sure.
So what information do you feel like the people need to hear?
I think the people need to recognize and understand what is happening in these first couple of weeks of the Trump administration. He has, you got to almost go back 4 years and to what has been the beginning of the disaster that was the Biden administration. And so many things that Joe Biden came into office and just tried to dismantle everything that Donald Trump had accomplished. And there was no denying that the 4 years that Trump was president, I mean, outside of the COVID crisis that set the whole country upside down, the economy was booming. Folks were feeling good about the country. We were moving in the right direction. People were paying less taxes. The Trump administration was humming prior to COVID coming in and hit. And the border was under control. Joe Biden comes in, and his first actions are to try to undo everything that President Trump had put in place. And it turned into a 4-year nightmare in so many ways. And I think that's exactly what the American people saw and what the American people rejected on November 5th of last year. And so what I have seen happen in these first few weeks is, again, President Trump has come along with executive action and pretty much put back into place the things that he had in place. And frankly, he's had to ramp it up a little bit because the crisis had gotten so out of control at the border particularly. And so the president has, he's got Tom Homan in place. He's already got Governor, well, she's now Secretary Nome in place at Homeland Security. And all of those things are beginning to take action. And then he's just done such common sense things like declare that there are 2 genders in America, male and female. Well, God bless him for stating that, because we needed a leader in this nation, I guess, that would actually make us aware of that, because it needed to happen. And so he's bringing us back to common sense, and I'm excited about it.
Tell me a little bit about what you've seen with, as far as cutting spending. You know, he is passing a slew of executive orders, right? FDR was kind of the one who coined the first 100 days because we were dealing with the Great Depression, and he really needed to get stuff passed through Congress to help out the American people. And it's fascinating to me because I don't know how he compares to FDR, but I'm sure he's probably going to surpass him. And
very likely.
Yeah. And so tell me how you've seen a reduction in spending, because I think there's a lot of things that kind of get passed through Congress that you don't really focus on or know about. And so how are Americans going to make more money if you guys are saving money in the government? Does that make sense?
It does. What government does by controlling spending, I think, is it unleashes the American economy to do what the American economy should do best, and that is grow. And you see that when you take crazy things that the Bidens did with trying to cut back our energy exploration and instead just try to shut that down. Trump comes and he opens that back up. And he was committed and has been committed that he wants to make us energy dominant, not just energy independent, but energy dominant again. And he's taken actions to do that. And when you do that, you create an environment that brings down the cost of gas at some point, brings down all of the different things that are driving inflation, so that the American people begin to feel they've got more money in their pockets, and they're going to spend on what they want to spend on. And again, I think it's going to be important that we have an extension of the Trump tax cuts. That's going to be a big one that we're going to face this year, because in 2017, when they passed the Trump tax cut, there was a sunset clause on those, and it's set to end at the end of this fiscal year. So Congress has the challenge, and we all ran on the issue that we were going to extend the Trump tax cuts. Otherwise, every American, doesn't matter from the poorest to the wealthiest, is going to feel a tax increase because all of those rates, the brackets, are going to go back up, and that's got to be handled.
And I think a lot of Americans, one of the reasons why there was a resounding, vote for Republicans is because Americans are not feeling safe, and
Right.
they're also, their wallets are hurting.
Right.
So do you want to talk about safety and just, how that's now playing into what is going on with this administration as well?
I think when you look at safety, I think securing the border, the president made it clear that that was a #1 priority because that is a security issue. It's a security issue for our individual lives, security issue for our families. It's a national security issue because of the people coming across the border from all of these countries that are not our friends. So I think he has made a commitment to that. The crime that has gone just spiked in these cities that have been having this mass immigration that have come in is a serious, serious issue. And I think being able to, again, get these criminals deported, get these gangs that have come in, rounded up and deported, I mean, that's been the first priority of these first couple of weeks, and we're seeing it happen. I think I saw somewhere they're averaging 1,000 a day that are being deported. And so I just think that is helping Americans feel safer and more secure. I think just getting back to law and order. I've had the privilege here just today. I've met with folks from District Attorney Association. I met with folks from the Police Association. Again, individuals that are promoting law and order, and it's felt really good to say to them that I hope you understand there is a new sheriff in town, and law and order is a priority of this administration. And because we have the White House and the Senate and a majority in the House of Representatives, the trifecta as they call it, we have an opportunity to govern and an opportunity to lead. And it's going to be very important for Congress to take these executive actions that the president's taken, and we need to get them codified into law. We need to take the steps that Congress was elected to take. And we're not just to sit back and be the cheerleaders in the stands and saying, go get them, President Trump, but we need to come alongside him, and we need to help him codify these things that he has taken action on.
So how do you feel like you come into this with a different view since your background is, being a pastor?
Well, I tell people all the time, in Washington, D.C., there's lots of lobbyists, there's lots of leverage, there's lots of political footballs that get tossed around, and people do this on this issue and that on this issue. I tell them what makes me different as a pastor is something that I heard Mike Huckabee say years ago. He said, when you do the pathology report on America, one thing that uniquely qualifies Mark Harris to serve in Congress, having been a pastor for 36 years, is he can put a name and a face with just about every issue that you deal with. I know what it is to sit across the table from a young girl and her boyfriend who she's just taken a pregnancy test and found out she's pregnant, and she doesn't know how to tell her parents. She doesn't know what she ought to do next. And for me to be able to help them through that and to get her to a crisis pregnancy center and begin that process. There's a name and a face with every issue. I've sat down at the table with a husband and wife who just lost his job, and they're trying to decide how are they going to make ends meet. The economy was rough, inflation's high. I've sat down with couples that suddenly, when the whole health insurance crisis came along, and suddenly they were told that they'd be able to keep the insurance policy they had, and then suddenly they found out that, well, maybe Obama wasn't quite straight with them on that, and they're at a crisis. So again, because I have dealt with people and ministered to people all my life that are dealing with real life issues, they're not just political footballs. And when you can put a name and a face with every issue you're dealing with, then you come to a different perspective.
Yeah, it creates a stronger why, your reasoning behind it, right?
Right.
Why, and one last question, why do you feel like God put you in this leadership role versus keeping you as a pastor?
Well, I don't I don't think it was either or. I think he's kind of got me in a both and, because
Yeah,
I'm continuing
that's
to
true.
preach where I am.
Yeah.
I have a very gracious church that seems to love me and loves our family and wants me to preach. I've got a great staff that is able to take the ministry load, and I told them I felt bad because I felt like I was probably certainly not living up to the standard of pastoral care that I was used to doing because I'm up here during the week. But I am able to preach on Sundays right now, which is great, and I'm very grateful for the staff. But it really is kind of both and. I think God's put me here for such a time as this because I just think it's a great opportunity for our nation to get back on track. I feel like that people across this country are coming back to common sense, and I tend to major in common sense and just getting back to just the principles of what God's Word and what truth is, and just sharing it with people. And two, again, Governor Huckabee's been a mentor of mine, so I'll reference him from time to time. But I remember him telling me right after he was elected to his role, and having been a pastor for a number of years, he said, "Mark, the morning I got up after my election, I just kind of felt like suddenly I had a larger church."
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to be said for that, because I look at the 8th District of North Carolina, 750,000 people that live in that district. And I don't want to just be a vote of one of 435 in the U.S. House. I want to be a voice for the 8th District of North Carolina. And so it's exciting, and this is a great time.
So you're in D.C. during the week, schedule slammed, and then you go home, and most people would be resting, but you are going home and preaching. Did you come out of the womb talking?
Just about, it seems. But my parents would have probably said yes to that question. But no, seriously, I love people, and preaching in many ways is not really a job to me. It's something I enjoy doing, and just delivering God's Word week in and week out, and I love doing that. So it's a great opportunity, and I love this. I love the committee work. I love just hearing people. I was in a hearing today, and just listening to folks that were talking about education, state of education in America. And I'm serving on the Education Committee. I'm serving on the Agriculture Committee. I'm serving on the Judiciary Committee up here. All areas that I have a great interest in, and really feel like my background ties into all of them. So it's very, very cool.
Is there anything else you'd like to add that maybe I haven't asked about?
I think you've covered a lot.
Okay.
I hope I've answered all your questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Congressman.